$25 holster from KTactical. Is it worth it? Stick around, I'll let you know. Second to your firearm, your holster is probably the most important piece of gear, but the holster selection is really important. So most of the holsters I'm reviewing are around the $100 mark. A $25 holster, what are you going to get for your money? Now, everybody says you get what you pay for in a lot of things, and sometimes that's true, sometimes it doesn't bear out. So how does it bear out with this holster? KTactical reached out to me and they said, hey, we'd like to get your honest feedback on some gear that we're releasing. So they sent me over their IWB holster, leather holster, and they sent this carbon fiber little pocket knife, which is actually pretty nice. I think it's like $35 on their site. They sell some other little camping gear type stuff, survival gear, some packs and things like that in addition to the holsters and knives. So check that out on KTactical's webpage. But let's look at the holster and I'll kind of break it down for you. So the holster is a single piece of leather. It's relatively thin. It has the single stitching around here. It's dyed black, obviously, with the red stitching. Looks pretty nice, actually. The clip, it has one steel metal clip here. It is not adjustable, so you're not going to get any cant adjusting or ride height, which is important when you're trying to dial in maybe the perfect fit for you. Those little micro adjustments on the holster sometimes can make a big difference in comfort level. Additionally, this is probably more ideal for IWB strong side carry because it does feel like it has a little bit of a forward cant to it. About the sweat guard, especially on leather holsters or your hybrid holsters that have leather or like a neoprene backing, what ends up happening is eventually they will break down. The leather will get soft, or whatever material it is will break down, and this sweat guard that should be like this up against your body ends up curling over. Okay, it's going to happen, all right, sooner or later. And with a holster that's this thin, you can see it already is happening, and it's relatively new. And so what ends up happening, and I've seen it happen many times on the range, what people do to holster the gun is they use the muzzle of the gun to push that open, and then they force their gun in. I don't have to tell you that muzzling yourself with your firearm is not a great idea. And so that's an issue. It's also an issue if the holster collapses on itself. And so you can see this doesn't have a lot of rigidity, and between your body and the tension of that belt, it's going to push in, and you're going to have a heck of a time trying to reholster this gun without forcing the muzzle to open up the mouth of the holster, or removing the holster and holstering the gun and putting the holster on your belt. Something to consider if you're going to use a holster. It's not unique to this holster. Any holster that collapses, any holster that has a sweat guard that's going to fold over. Okay, so just something to consider. I did mention the leather is fairly thin, and around the trigger guard, you have to check the serviceability of your gear anyways, right? But with the leather holster, sometimes this can break down, this right around the trigger guard, and it can create like a point, right, where that trigger can bind up, and it can actually manipulate the trigger while it's in the holster or as you're holstering, and potentially activate the trigger and fire off a shot without you intending to even shoot, because your finger isn't even on the trigger. You may notice that I don't have my Shield RMSC. That is because the holster is not cut for an optic. Okay, so I had to remove it in order to do the review. Additionally, if you have taller sights, these are not suppressor height sights, but they're higher than normal, they will scrape on the inside of the leather, and my sights are already gouging this up pretty good on the inside. What I do like about the holster is they do a good job of getting the trigger guard covered up really well. It fits well. There is a good area here where I can grip my gun, get a high firm grip on my gun without it even coming out of the holster. So those are two things that are important, and it does have some decent retention as far as like just natural retention. They do have the major manufacturers, Glock, Smith & Wesson, SIG covered, but they don't have a huge selection of firearms. So overall, there are some good things about the holster. There are some drawbacks. What are you getting for $25? Concealed carry is a process, and you may be really early on that in that process and trying to figure out just exactly what gun am I going to carry, where am I going to carry it, and shelling out $75, $85 for a holster on the chance that it's going to work with your firearm and everything's going to be great for you, might be a little intimidating, especially after you just bought a gun, you're attending some training and things like that, and I get it. So a holster like this may be beneficial for you if you're new, you're trying to figure it out. Hey, I like the gun here, I don't like it here. I wish I could cant it a little or have a little bit ride height adjustment. And then those things, you write them down, and when next time when you're looking for a holster that you're going to carry your gun in for when you leave the house, everyday carry, now you know what you want, right? You can kind of work those things out before you step off and start carrying your gun out in public, or you go to a training event and have to do a lot of holstering and things like that. These types of holsters aren't going to last. They're not going to hold up, but they do have their place for that new person who's trying to figure things out. So if that's you, check out KTactical. They have $25 holsters out there. You can't go wrong. You can kind of get your feet wet, figure out what you want, and then go and spend the big bucks maybe once or twice instead of 10, 15 times like the rest of us. And then check out the full written review over at concealedcarry.com, where we review a whole bunch of other gear. Stay safe, guys, and thanks for watching.